In 2006, we lost Ronnie Sox of the famous Sox and Martin racing team. It was a shock to the Mopar world, and we all realized at that moment that we were not going to have our heroes around forever. Soon wrote an editorial in Mopar Collector's Guide referencing how we needed to do a Hall of Fame for the Mopar heroes that we grew up with, to preserve Mopar history for the future generations. As the years went by, I ran into a good friend of mine, Jim Kramer, at a show, and he asked me when I was going to do a Mopar Hall of Fame. I must have looked at him with a yeah right look in my eyes. He proceeded to say, "If you don't do it, no one else will." In my heart of hearts, I knew he was right, so in 2011 I began lining up sponsors and critical people to help me pull something together that the entire Mopar community could be proud of. What we ended up with was a number of Hall of Fame induction dinners that were held Saturday night of each Chrysler's at Carlisle event from 2012 until 2018. The Mopar Hall of Fame will go forward each preceding year in the pages of Mopar Collector's Guide magazine. This is one of those recordings made on one of those incredible nights at the Mopar Hall of Fame at Chrysler's at Carlisle.
Our next inductee is another NASCAR gentleman named Larry Rathgeb. I had the pleasure of meeting him 4 or 5 years ago. Great guy. He walked up and introduced himself to me. He said, "You're Herb McCandless?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I don't know you, but I know who you are." He said, "I'm Larry Rathgeb." I said, "Well, I don't know you, but I know who you are." And Mr. John Whirley, where are you, sir? Come on up here. He's going to tell us about Mr. Rathgeb. John is a member of the Ram Chargers, one of the people that was involved very heavily in NASCAR, just retired a few years ago from it.
Thank you. Larry apologizes for not being here, but he's a little bit under the weather. Probably to most of you folks, Larry Rathgap isn't a household name. But I'll guarantee you that in NASCAR and USAC and some of the folks that Mr. McDaniels was talking about know Larry very well. However, he seems like an unlikely person to be a racer. He's an engineer's engineer. As a matter of fact, one of his first claims to fame was he was the driver for General MacArthur in Japan. And I understand he went through a lot of drivers, but he kept Larry. So that was a good start. Larry started at Chrysler in 1957. And he came into the Institute like a lot of the folks from Chrysler and started as his first job in what they called the cable design area. Now, it seems like an unlikely spot to start into racing. And as a matter of fact, he didn't stay there too long because, as you can tell, it's cable design. They design things that used cables. Well, Larry didn't. He designed an emergency brake that was all mechanical, and after a year or so, they thought maybe Larry would fit better someplace else. And he moved into the suspension lab, and that's where he blossomed. And then somewhere around 1962, when we got involved with Ray Nichols, Ronnie Householder come into the suspension lab and says, "Those Pontiacs really run good." And we've got Ray in our fold now. He says, "We want you to design a Pontiac suspension system under those Dodgers and Plymouths." It was kind of hard for Larry to take, but they did that. And as you said, they ran pretty good. But come about 1964, Larry was the guy that designed the roll bar, the suspension system using the torsion bars and leaf springs for the race cars. It was really the basis for the successful race cars all through the 60s up until we actually into the 70s, through the 72, 74 cars. And he really joined the race group at that time. And he was a disciple, a passionate person, spent lots and lots of time with the racers. He literally lived with Richard Petty. And, you know, if Richard was here, he would acknowledge that he was a pain in the neck because he was there all the time. As a matter of fact, after the first car that used the new suspension in 1964, let me look here. It was Buck Baker with a Ray Fox car won Darlington that 1st September. So that was a great start for Chrysler race cars and for Larry. And as a matter of fact, the next year, I think it was in 64, that, it was 65, that Richard won 10 races in a row. And basically was using that suspension system. You know, Larry was the engineer's engineer, and like we said, he was interested in drag racing as well. He came out to some of the drag tests and helped with some of the suspension stuff as well. So he was very involved in any of our racing activities. He was for the NASCAR and for USAC and for anything that was oval, including dirt tracks. He ran the test for us. I worked for Larry sometimes. I did the engine stuff during that time period. And Larry was the suspension guy, but he always ran the test and was responsible for the aero and was one of the main drivers for the Superbirds and Daytonas. As a matter of fact, some of his proudest accomplishments is the Superbird and the Daytona, and especially the 200 miles an hour run at Talladega with Buddy Baker. And I haven't been looking at the pictures, but I'm sure that was involved in that. I think I saw out of the side of my eye the chalkboard with Buddy holding up 200 miles an hour. Yeah, there it is. An interesting thing, too, just with the opening of Talladega, they almost went 200 miles an hour at that time. Charlie Glotzback qualified on the pole, and I think Ronnie told him, he says, don't go too fast. And for those that knew Charlie Glotzback, that was the wrong thing to say. And, he almost broke 200 at that time, first time out. Larry stayed in the race program until 1978 or so, and that's about the time that we weren't as active in racing in general, actually. And he then went into program management as the program manager for the foreign engines that we had in Omni and Horizons, and then retired in '87. But he just retired from Chrysler because he went to work for Richard, and he also was a consultant for the Viper. As a matter of fact, he designed and helped implement a production front-end alignment machine, which was, that doesn't sound like much to you, but this was for production, and it was a very large job that he accomplished. And then when we started back in NASCAR First and Craftsman trucks, Larry was our consultant for our suspensions then. So we still call him up now and then, although he's a gentleman farmer up in Michigan, along with Al Adam over there. Another one of his favorite jobs was the kit car, which I see up here, which we did in '74. Again, that was a Larry Rathgap design system, and he would travel to whoever bought the car and help them set it up, put it together, and he still is the racer's friend. I know that he would thank Lisa and Rob for the award tonight, and I know he's really disappointed for not being here. So I wanted to thank you very much for that, and for the brick. We'll really appreciate that, so thank you.
If you like this video, please smash the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this one online, hit the subscribe to Mopar TV button. It's totally free. Also, if you'd like to support the Mopar Hall of Fame and vote for future inductees, go to MoparCollectorsGuide.com and subscribe to the only Mopar magazine that matters. A portion of your subscription will go to help keep Mopar history alive for future generations.